Here's something that's going to blow your mind. The woman who's been teaching virtual engagement for over 20 years just figured out that the secret to connection in our tech-driven world has been staring us in the mirror the whole time. I'm Ryan Kohler, and this is The Future of Work with AI. Emily Alvarez recently sat down with Kassy LaBorie, known as the Trainer's Trainer, and author of Interact and Engage, for a conversation that reveals why most of us are still doing virtual work completely wrong, and how AI adoption follows the exact same patterns we've seen with every technology shift. Here's Kassy's origin story, and it's perfect. She's driving down the 101 in San Francisco in the late 90s, sees a giant billboard featuring RuPaul in a fabulous dress with the tagline, "We've got to start meetings like this," and thinks, any company that's that forward thinking and fun, I want to work there. That company? WebEx. And Kassy just accidentally stumbled into becoming the pioneer of virtual human connection. But here's what's fascinating. For over 2 decades, Kassy faced constant resistance. People said virtual doesn't work, you can't engage without being in person, technology creates barriers instead of bridges. Sound familiar? It's the exact same conversation we're having about AI right now. Emily and Kassy dive deep into her newly evolved You framework, Your Invitation Matters, Own the Tools, Unleash Your Presence. It's her answer to the question that's defined her entire career. How do we stay human in an increasingly tech-driven world? They're exploring why the shift from where do I click to what does it all mean is the same journey every organization needs to make with AI. How Kassy taught herself ChatGPT by asking it about Barbie, because you learn new tools through subjects you already know. And why HR is going to be the catalyst for these conversations, whether they're ready or not. This isn't about becoming a tech expert. This is about recognizing that we've navigated massive technology shifts before, and the principles that work for human connection don't change. We just need to apply them to whatever new tool is in front of us. Ready to discover why virtual might actually be better than in person when it's done right, and how that same mindset transforms how we approach AI. Let's dive in.
Thank you for joining us on another awesome episode of The Future of Work with AI. I am joined today, very excited, Kassy LaBorie. She comes all the way from beautiful Rochester, New York, upstate New York. And I am excited. Kassy is known as the trainer's trainer for a reason. She is an absolute powerhouse. Besides being able to talk with Kassy all day about our mutual love of denim and all things mid-century modern, we also share a love of people and tech and HR tech. And so, Kassy, tell us about yourself, how you got started. You have an impressive, amazing career in virtual tech. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I am absolutely thrilled to be here. And RuPaul has a lot to do with my work, which is amazing. Or at least the imagery of RuPaul, because during the late 90s, I was in San Francisco and I was driving down one of the famous freeways there, the 101, and there was a giant billboard featuring RuPaul in a fabulous dress.
Love it.
We've got to start meeting like this. And I was a trainer teaching Microsoft applications at that time. It was my very first job. I was an actor in college, or a public speaking major, and I got a job as a trainer. So I always say that the actors in the business world become trainers once they figure out they can do that. The number of actors
almost by accident, but not really.
Yeah. And when I saw that, I thought, well, that sounds like a great company to work for. Who are they? Well, it was WebEx. WebEx had done a Super Bowl halftime commercial featuring RuPaul. And I thought, any company that's like that forward thinking and also fun, I want to work there. And I got a job as a product trainer at WebEx. It's the late 90s. And I'm teaching people how to use online meeting software, which I barely knew what that was myself. In fact, funny, from those days, I remember we were never on webcam because it would break. Forget that. So it was all radio broadcast techniques in those days. And I remember every single time for like the first month of that job, I would log in, type my name in, join the meeting, and then my phone would ring. And I'd be like, why are you calling me? I'm just starting my meeting. Every single time. But of course, it was the meeting calling.
Yeah.
Like, right, which is so normal now. In fact, we don't even use phones now. It's all just computer. But that is how I got my start. So with my background as a tech trainer, I go to work for a tech company, teaching people how to meet people using tech. And so what happens is I work at WebEx for a number of years, and people would say, okay, almost every class that I taught, Kassy, we get where we should click to schedule the meeting, share the screen, do the whatever. But what
Right.
we really want to know is, how did you make us want to listen to it?
Interesting. How do we connect with it?
And why did we pay attention to you? Why did we stay here? Why do
Yeah.
we know you? And why do we feel like we feel? And of course, when I first became a trainer, I was, I call myself the baby trainer. I wanted to just do training because I loved leading classes
Yeah.
and be with people and help them learn whatever. And when I was interviewing for those jobs at that time in the Silicon Valley, the people wanted me to be the database subject matter expert,
Right.
or the, fill in the blank topic subject matter expert. And I would always say, I can learn that.
Yeah.
What I'm going to bring is how people will learn and how we'll come together as a group,
Right.
manage conflict, um, share vulnerabilities, identify challenges,
Yeah.
come together so that we can build the skill. I can learn what you need me to teach them.
Yeah. Both things can be true.
Yeah, what I want to focus on is taking care of the people in the space. And it was difficult to get a job, I'll be honest, because they were like, well, no, we just need you to know how to use that database. And that actually still is I would call it pervasive problem, if you will, in learning and development today,
Yeah.
where we have subject matter experts that are the ones that knew it the best, and we have them be the trainer. And they don't know how to teach people or how to communicate necessarily. They learn through trial and error,
Sure.
you know. But I came at it differently. I came at it wanting to be with the people. And so that question of how did I make it so that you wanted to stay here is actually where my heart lies and has always. And so, when I saw that RuPaul ad, it was just like, there's another tech job for me to get that might be a fun one. And I didn't, there's no way, I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not, a person who can predict the future. I had no
Right.
idea where it was headed. I just thought it's cool. And
That's amazing.
my boss at the time, my other boss, the one I was doing the Microsoft training for, he said when I went to WebEx, he's like, I have no idea how you do that, but just make it sound great. Because at that time we weren't on camera, right? And
Right.
he was also a theater director. It's how I knew him. He's a mentor, Hunter Gilliam. Shout out to Hunter. But he said to me, make it sound great. Make it sound like you're on the radio, and they will lean in and learn.
It's interesting. That reminds me back to back when radio was popular, right? And it was the famous debate between Richard Nixon on the radio, and it was, who was he debating?
This is going a little tiny bit before my time. So yours too,
Right.
you know of it
He
historically.
was on, it was on with John F. Kennedy. He was on a radio debate with John F. Kennedy, and it was the first radio debate that was publicly broadcasted on television.
Okay. Okay.
And when they did the polls and they said, who would you pick out of these two from the people that listened to it on the radio? Overwhelmingly, people gravitated towards Nixon. But then when you watched it on TV, because John F. Kennedy, was this charismatic, good-looking guy, people gravitated towards him because
Mhm.
of the way he looked. But Nixon, because of his charisma and because of his delivery and because he made it, what the people wanted to hear on that debate, and he connected. There was a level of empathy there that he connected with the people. They overwhelmingly chose Nixon on that debate. Well, we know what happened, the tragic end of Nixon, but the point is, if you deliver with empathy, you deliver with care and kindness, and you make it sound good and you make it engaging, people don't necessarily have to see you. However, we do know that going forward into, culture, that became kind of a barrier that we had to cross eventually, right? And
Huge.
especially when we get into post or, into COVID times and into the pandemic, when things switched over to having to go remote or having to do most of our communication digitally or over Zoom meetings or some sort of virtual webinar type base for the way we interacted with each other. And so when this was going on past, because you had a lot of foresight with this, obviously, to really build tools or build around people versus what a lot of companies do, which is just implement a tool or something because it's the next greatest thing, and then they expect their people to just adopt to it. Did you find any conflict with upper management or with leadership in the early stages of this when you were adopting these tools with wanting to position this too fast or wanting to get in there too quickly without keeping people in mind?
The amount of conflict and the amount of putting it aside that existed for the first 20, 21 years of my career. Because let's be honest, it wasn't until March of 2020 that people really leaned in, and it was because they had to.
Right. I
Right.
would imagine.
We leaned in during a little tiny bit. I was actually driving to work uh, to WebEx when 9/11 happened.
Right.
And all of us who worked at WebEx at that time, we knew that the software that we were working on to build and to make available to the world was going to make an impact at that point, and it did.
Right.
It did. That's the first time I saw an impact with it. Well, during my time with it,
Right.
and then the second time would be during the financial crisis that we had in the mid 2000s.
Right.
We saw it boost again there. But again, neither one of those things, although epic, were not nearly as epic as it was in March of 2020 when everyone literally had to, and it was the only option.
Right.
So for sure. And back to your point about what made you even think of the question was the webcam issue. I call it, because my whole career up until the prevalence and success of Zoom was explaining how you could still make it work even if you could not see one another.
Right.
Even though we had gotten better with making the webcams work in my early days, I would come on and say hi, and then I would turn it off so that the meeting wouldn't break. It got better. It was working fine up until we all paid attention in 2020. It was working, but people still didn't want to be on. To this day, they don't want to be on for
Right.
different reasons, I think. But back then, it was very much about, well, if I can't see you, I'm not going to be able to, fill in the blank,
Right.
engage, be successful, make it work. And so, yeah, there was so much resistance. And so that's always where I have leaned. In fact, the first edition of my book, there was so much conversation around the webcam that I would take like a soapbox type stand to say, webcam does not engage. The second edition that comes out, that was the first edition, if I said that incorrectly. The second edition comes out in 2022 because I wanted to update all these things. I was like, of course, webcam engages, because now we are on it all the time.
Right.
And there's a whole set of different issues now, but it is not the only reason we engage. It isn't what you can put all your cards on.
Right.
Just because they're on camera does not mean they are engaged. It's the exact opposite sentiment. It's always going to go back to, why did Nixon engage? What was the thing that he did? He connected with people. He spoke to their problems. He made them the center of the story, and they and felt that they could connect, and like, he sees me.
Yeah, he spoke to the working man, and that's what they wanted in that time period.
Right.
And that's what is interesting. And I think to break through that, I mean, you're in your book, and I haven't read it yet, but your book, Interact and Engage, I would imagine that just like any tool and just like any learning and development that takes place with any tool, and engagement rates with any tool and retention rates, with any tool that you engage with, and employees saying, or colleagues, or however you want to call them, how they engage with it, or whether or not they adopt it or they accept it into their toolbox, really stands around company culture, right? It
Yeah.
would, whether they engage with a tool, whether they say, okay, we have a company meeting, or we have a team meeting that's going to require me to be on Zoom and be on camera. and interact or engage, I would imagine has some stuff to do with company culture, might have some stuff to do though with what's going on in the person's personal life. Might
Oh
have
my,
something, you know, there's a lot of factors involved there.
it's so complex.
It's very complex.
Yeah.
And you also have the factor too of maybe socioeconomic stuff. If someone's in their house, you
Yeah.
know, I mean, we have the blurred background stuff now, and you can put a fake background on there, but you know, there could be an invasive perspective to
Oh,
it,
there's so much.
you
And,
know?
and like I just always for me, I don't know what it is, why my nature, it's just who I am. I always just my heart is what I lead with.
Yeah,
Even when I graduated high school, I had a really sort of cheesy thing underneath my picture. It was follow your heart. And it
right,
sounds kind of cheesy, but it's actually just so much who I am. And for me, I just want people to be comfortable and happy. And so I'm always looking for a reason for you to want to be on the camera and to want
right.
to say hi. And I actually have to start that myself as the presenter and as the
Yes.
leader,
Lead by example.
leaning in and saying, let's invite you to be part of this because this is for you and about you.
Right,
And it's a little bit of a switch in mindset because these tools do say in terms of the tools that connect us remotely, these online meeting tools, these live tools, they default to, hey, here I am, let me send me out to you.
right,
Live stream, webinar, lecture, content sent to you through the feed, right?
right.
And so it takes an active effort to flip that.
Right.
Just part of the very first thing that I teach people when they're seeking to engage. You flip it. You got to flip it and make it about your audience, not about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, completely agree. I think leadership or leaders in general, I think sometimes we forget that. And again, for a whole myriad of reasons,
Yeah.
right? And to me, it pretty consistently comes back to culture a lot of the time.
Yes, because so many places like if there's this rule that you have to be on camera every time, I'll tell you what, in my Zoom background right now and in my Teams background and my WebEx background, I have a picture of myself.
Yeah,
So I can just pop myself as the background and walk away. With the use of avatars now, we can do the same thing. You put the avatars on, which I'm very pro avatar because at least they move.
right,
But there's that too. And then the platforms now, many of them, not all of them, but many of them allow you to upload a live video as your background. And so people
yes,
have filmed themselves sitting there moving their head. I have one, I scratch my cheek,
right,
I smile a little, and I
right.
made it run long enough so that when it goes on the loop, you don't know that it's the same video.
Oh yeah, there's all
People
sorts
will
of deep
find
fake.
ways to break rules. So what we have to get at is the culture
Right,
and who we are when how are we showing up?
right,
And
right,
how are we encouraging people to show up and why do they want to be here? What's that internal motivation
right.
that we're supporting, that we're seeking out, and that we're seeding, if you will, and nourishing,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and curiosity has a lot to do with that. Being able to allow people to have room to be curious, ask those questions, ask, how does this help me? You
Yeah.
know,
And
how does this,
empathetic too.
right, be empathy. Well, yeah, leading with empathy is key, right? And in everything we do, I mean, leading with empathy is so important. And always, I mean, I've never seen anybody lead with empathy and not receive higher engagement
I
as a result
know. And
of
it's
it.
like, and we do need to teach people how to, show up and be responsible for themselves as well. And
Accountability.
accountability. Yeah. I always talk about that within the learning context too, learner accountability. Like, one of the ways that I'll manage that in my virtual training initiatives or programming is I will send out uh, information and communications ahead of time on what to expect. And I do it via storytelling and also
Right.
sometimes video, depending. So it's not just a list of here's how you will act. I lean into a story to get you to be part of it. But within that very first touch point, I do say, please do not attend our program with the goals that we have and the way we're going to be together via your mobile devices. We need you at a desk on your own with your computer because
Yeah.
of what we will be doing. And when the person shows up via their phone while they're in a car, I actually request that they do not attend. And I ask them to come in later once they've parked.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. And I'm kind of in the same boat with you. I don't ask them to not attend, but I do kick people's note takers out of meetings now that are not in there because it's obnoxious, and it's a disruption to other people who are there to participate and who are there to um engage. And it's a
Yeah.
distraction to me, frankly, as the trainer or the person that's hosting or leading the meeting, right? So then it's
Yeah.
disruptive to my engagement with the people who are there. So all around, it's just not great for
I think
anything.
it's like, and this is where the empathy comes in because see,
Right,
people have a model that that's okay.
right,
And so now I've got to request and be clear. Here's how we're going to do things. And then I actually have to follow through with it.
right,
So that's where you have to like sometimes get a little tough and say, oh, you know what? Note takers weren't invited to this type of event today.
right.
I understand why you'd like to have it and what you need. And here's what we've put in place as an alternative
Sure.
to what we'll be
I'll
doing.
send you a recording or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And
yeah,
here's what's expected of all of us in order for me to be able to create the experience that will equal engagement that you're seeking, then
right.
we have some things. I used an example and I still use this example. Oh my gosh. Uh, I've been using it since the beginning of teaching people how to be in these environments, and it still applies today, and it is amazing to me. Hi, I'd like to learn how to ice skate today. Excellent. Let's put on your skates. Oh, I won't do that.
Yeah,
Okay. And what happens in learning and development is that we try to proceed and teach you to skate anyway, over and
right,
over again. And what I am a believer in is guess what? I really like the truth. You're not ice skating if you're not wearing the ice skates.
right,
You might be slipping and
right,
sliding and doing other things, but we can't call that ice skating until you have.
right,
So you need the tools, you need the resources. We need to probably build up to what you need to do.
right.
Things are
Yeah,
gonna happen, and I'm going to be here and be responsible for all those things. But listen, you got to show up with those skates.
exactly. And ready to absorb the information, right? Yeah, willing participant.
And it's not me
Right,
being rude or mean.
right,
I'm coming at it from a place of honesty,
right,
and
right,
and as I've learned as a consultant is like, okay, you want them to ice skate, they won't wear skates. So what are we going to do? What would you like to do? What would be another outcome? Let's work.
right,
What else could happen? And maybe we move that that giant iceberg later to stay on the cold theme. But
absolutely.
yeah, it's just very interesting. And so I do think people need to be taught what the expectations are. They do what they are comfortable doing and for what they've been permitted to do before,
Right.
what they've gotten away with, if you will.
Gotten away with.
Ooh, I hate to say it like that because it sounds
Well,
so.
and also, I mean, also I think it has to do with maybe a lack of comfortability about what they're maybe feeling like they're permitted to do or not do could factor into that as well. I've seen that happen where,
Yeah,
it's sometimes a struggle to feel like you're able to ask those questions or have even a seat at the table to ask those
correct.
questions. And so
Right.
we as leadership have to open that door and keep that door open at all times with that level of transparency, right? And I think you've developed some really beautifully laid out framework around this that leadership can follow. And you were very kind to share it with me. And it's kind of a you saw it first here moment because you've been developing this, which is also beautiful. I mean, you had an original concept, and then you, like we should all be doing, you're like, this is got to evolve. And I
It's
think that's
evolving.
so
Yeah,
beautiful and important because as we go through this, we have to always remember too that while we have these amazing ideas, sometimes we're not our audience, right? And our audience, like we have to figure out how our audience is going to digest this information. And you've put together this great framework that is like easy to digest and it's straightforward and it's really just in alignment with exactly what we're talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for those of you who are watching this podcast. so that you can see this framework that Kassy's come up with.
Now, this is the first iteration of this
This is the
framework in a
first
way.
iteration. You saw
So
it here
likely it
first,
will
folks.
change. But this is, yeah, this is a visual of it as it stands today, because it keeps changing. And why put together a framework? You know, because I'm going from how do I do this? Where do I click to what does it all mean?
Right. But it's great. I mean, invitation. So talk us through this a little bit, Kassy.
Right. So the idea is if I want to be, so the big question that has been around me that I've been answering for I would suggest my entire career is, how do I engage? Engage with
Right.
people, engage with tech, engage in my job, engage in my life, engage myself. You know, those are the
Yeah.
questions that are around my career. And so if we want to be connected, not just present, the U framework is what has guided me. And this is what I've landed on today. The move from where do I click to what it all means is wrapped up in this U framework, where it starts with the why. And this is a principle that I've had for many, many, many years. I call it your invitation. It matters. The invitation to be part of something, the invitation to join, to want to lean in. We talked about it moments ago that these platforms and a lot of this tech, it's a lot of send out, me, send out. And so we tell leaders all the time to know your people, know your audience, invite them in, but how do you really do it? And so I have a principle in this your invitation matters section of the framework that's like this. What did I just say or do that I could have let you say or do instead?
Right.
What did I just say or do that I could have let you say or do instead? It's very simple. I'm going to invite you in. And, you know, Emily, this first part of the framework is super personal for me because I grew up as a military kid, which meant, as beautiful as that experience was, it meant that I was the outsider wherever I went because I was always the new kid.
Always changing. It's like a revolving door. Yeah.
You know, people don't invite people they don't know. And I learned early on, if I wanted to be a part of anything, I was gonna have to invite myself, figure out how to stick my foot in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable, very, very uncomfortable.
I'll invite myself to the party, dang it.
It's so embarrassing. And
no, but it's what I mean, it's how we adapt and
what you had to
integrate,
do.
right?
And so when I got, you know, who better than to figure out online meeting software than the outsider herself? You know,
I was born for this.
I was born for this. Hold up.
Yeah.
And I know the pain of having to invite myself to stuff.
But you know what, Kassy? What it probably also did, and this your invitation matters, is it made you a phenomenal listener. And listeners, there's a difference between hearing and listening. And when we're able to sit back and listen, because I'm a lot like that too, I would rather listen and absorb and then go through steps of critical thinking and try to make an assessment of something than, just jump to. I used to be very impatient and I've done that work. But as leadership, we have to slow down and listen. And I think I can't tell you how many Zoom meetings I've been on, and I've probably done this myself. I know I have in my career where I've just gotten in there and I've been nervous and I've just talk, right? Talk at people. Don't even give people an opportunity to speak.
Right.
Do you think those people engage?
They don't.
No.
Yeah, they don't. The
Hell
only
no,
people
they
that get away
don't.
with that are people like, the only reason we ever get away with that is if you're already super famous and people already knew about you and they wanted to know your story. And so they
Right.
don't want, like.
Right. And I am not Josh Burson. So we're not no one wants to hear me talk that much. Let's be honest. So I host podcasts,
Like once I finally got my job, I got in my career, I didn't want my attendees, my learners, the people in my circle, the people on my team to have to figure out how to invite themselves. So it lit a fire, you could say, to create invitations. And so
right.
that's where that comes from. And so like an example, instead of me saying, hi, here's how we engage online, what I always do in some form or another is I begin with a question and an invitation to you.
Right.
Wow, how do you define engagement as it pertains to living in this tech-driven world? What engages you?
Right.
And then, you know, their answers come through a chat, through a poll, on a whiteboard. It doesn't matter, whatever it is. I'd like to have them use the tech while they're there, because that's the second part of the framework. But having them put those examples in, then the beautiful thing for me is I no longer have to make anything up. I get to go, Emily thinks it's engaging when, and you know, John says it's engaging when this happens. Those are exactly opposite of one another, but look, it represents the differences among us.
Yeah.
Challenges to build in different opportunities. And so how can we do it, as Emily and John have suggested? And now I'm personalizing who I'm speaking to. We're creating belonging. You're being seen, you're being heard, and I'm going to continue on to create value if I'm talking about how Brene Brown says we create connection.
Right.
Being seen, heard, and valued. And the second part of the framework is owning the tools, because we live in a tech-driven world. Tech is what connected us. It is what connected us, but it is not why we will stay.
Right.
I always like to say tech is cool. People are cooler.
Yeah. And it's not why we connected in the first place, right? It's a tool. It is a tool.
Right. It is how. And it's the same thing with AI today. It is how. It is a tool that we can use, but what we choose to do with it, how we bring one another together, what we create from it, that's the magic. And I love it. I love saying we gotta own the tools. And then I love it. You gotta learn the tool, use the heck out of the tool. And then guess what? Get over it.
Right.
It's the people. And so what are we doing now? How is this changing our lives? How does this improve my life? What parts do I not like and I don't want to really lean into? That's okay.
Right. Well, yeah. And we can get into this with AI all day about, you know, how I feel about tools. And, you know, I believe a lot of these corporations and companies are magpies now with these tools. They like see the next shiny thing and they're like, oh my gosh, we need that right now because it's like this cool new thing. But to your point, owning the tools, right? I believe that these tools should be designed by the people, for the people to use every day for their tasks that they need to use them for. So by owning these tools, what better way than to involve these people that are using them in the conversation?
Right.
That gives people almost immediate ownership over these tools because they feel like I was a part of creating them. I was a part of conceptualizing them. I know what they're being used for because I told you what my pain points are every day. And these tools are exactly what tools are meant to do, which is to help in a situation. Like if you need to, you know, hang a picture, you get a nail and a hammer and you put it in the wall and you hang a picture. Those are tools you use to hang a picture. AI and Zoom and note takers and chats and all these different things, email and all the things we've been using for years and years are all the same. They're tools. And so we personalize these tools.
Yeah, and you gotta like learn how to do it. Like
AI is the same exact thing. It's
and
the exact same thing, folks.
And it's not easy. I don't think it's easy in any way, shape, or form. It's overwhelming. But I'll tell you what, you know what I did when AI was, or Chat GPT was first, you know, sort of released into the world for all of us regular folks. What I did is first I ignored it for a little bit, like about a month. And then I was like, I should probably listen to what's happening. So I'm just admit that vulnerability right there.
Right.
And the way that I decided to learn it was I had to put it within the context of something that was going to be fun for me.
Yes.
And I could understand and be easy. And so you know what I did when I first taught myself how to use a large language model? First, I asked it, because I have a public facing career. I'm on the internet.
Sure.
I'm published. You know, so I said, who is Kassy LaBorie? Write my bio. And I saw right away where it failed.
It hallucinates.
Where it hallucinated, where it succeeded, and what it was doing. And that taught me right there, because I didn't have to do any of the learning on my own bio. I knew that. And so now I'm looking at the tool and I'm like, let's see. And so then I was like prompting it, are you sure about this one piece? Oh, forgive me, that was a mistake. You know, it's very interesting.
Apologizes.
Yeah. And so once I kind of got over that and was like, that's very interesting. I see what it does now. And I see how I need to show up when I'm using it.
Yes.
And the level of things I need to be watching and paying attention to. So then I went to the next level. I happen to, you mentioned mid-century modern. I am a collector of many things. one of the things that I know a whole lot about in my sleep, you could say, would be the origins of Barbie.
Yes.
I have a big Barbie collection. And
Impressive collection.
thank you. Yes, I'm very proud. In my younger days, I was the vice president of the San Francisco Fashion Doll Club, and
Love it.
we weren't allowed to call it the Barbie Club because Mattel would not let us, but it was a Barbie Club. So, I would give presentations even in my club days on
Right.
origins. But anyway, so the next thing that I did to teach myself how to own this one tool, or tools like that, the large language model tools, is I said, if Barbie was a webinar presenter, what would it be like to attend her online sessions?
Oh, I love that.
And I created this whole world. And I was like, wait a sec, wait a sec, and I went through the whole prompting, ended up creating a whole presentation about the whole thing. But this was me teaching myself within topics that were fun to me. And then I didn't have to I knew the answer already.
Right.
So to see what it was going to create and what it was going to do, it was actually just completely fun for me. I ended up posting about it and everything. And then that gave me a whole thing to be like, how many pink slides can I get away with? What's going to be happening?
Barbie pink.
And
no, and that's a great point. And that's what we kind of talk with, people who don't really have a certain level of comfortability with ChatGPT or GPT or large language models in general, is take it and do something fun with it. Write a bedtime story for your kids where they're interacting with you and you're telling it, because you can talk to it with your, voice or whatever. Put it on, if you have who doesn't have a smartphone now, but if you have a smartphone, put it down here where your normal internet is, whatever you're using. I mean, and use that in place of Google, to ask it questions. But to your point, it does hallucinate. Not only does it hallucinate, it hallucinates all the time. So,
well, and and the only way for you to know that, because if you're asking
is by a subject,
you got to start with something and that's something sort of is a we talk in learning about creating a safe learning environment. It's like that's a safe space for you.
Correct. It should always be a sandbox environment when you start off.
Low stakes, if you will.
Yeah.
Because now, now that I understand what the tool can do, what it is capable of, where it messes up,
right.
In places where I'm analyzing contracts, I'm having it help me build out strategy statements.
Right.
And, pitch decks and things that are helping me to position myself in ways that I've had trouble doing in the past. I'm like, listen, position me as this.
Right.
Oh, no, don't do that. Let's try again. And now I just know how to use it because I got over that. And I think that leads to the last part of that framework of unleashing presence. The way that I will learn things is very unique to me. And showing up for myself, showing up for others, that's what unleashing your presence is about. Because I might go through the motions of inviting you to be here, and I might know how to use the tool, but where's all the personality stuff? Where's all of what I do with all of that now?
Right.
Because anytime I'm using a large language model, deep inside, at the core, my origin story, I'm giggling a little bit about how Barbie helped me figure this all out.
Right. And that's what typically happens, right? Is we somehow the tech, when we personalize it, we own it, it plays into our origin story in some way.
Yeah.
We end up finding, or at least in my case, I ended up finding, I was telling someone this yesterday who was saying, well, I'm afraid AI is going to stifle my creativity. That was the conversation. And I said, I'm going to really piss you off with what I'm going to say next. Because in my origin story, AI has actually made me more creative, more my critical thinking has gotten better, actually. And I've become more curious and more inquisitive. And it brought out all this stuff in my origin story that I knew was there, but it amplified it.
Well, then it's like, I don't know if this is you. Maybe you could tell me, was it for me? It's difficult. It's always been difficult to write.
Yes, but I know it's up here.
I feel embarrassed or shy. That's sort of like the little Kassy, that has to kind of work past that. And so what AI has helped me to do is to say, write it as if I'm the most confident person in the world who can't wait to share everything with you. And then when I
Yes.
read that, it kind of almost like Dale Carnegie. I used to work with Dale Carnegie.
Right.
Dale Carnegie, one of the principles is give people, you know, something to live up to, like a high bar to live up to. You know, I forget the
Yeah.
exact words. I just butchered that a little bit, but you know, give them something to live up to. It's like that's what AI is doing for me because I will read it and I'll be like, I am like that. Now I'm going to change the words to be more me and to say it
Yeah.
in a way, but it's now just been said. And you know, sometimes if you just run through that script, you're like, okay, yeah, that, you know what, that is me. I do believe that is me. You know, you believe what you tell yourself.
It's a confidence booster for sure when it comes back and says something like that.
It's a little strange if there's lies, right? That would be a whole thing. But I'm
Yeah.
not go into the world of lies. So
Well, then I just tell it to rethink it again and it apologizes to me. So it's, it's always quick with an apology.
I know it's very funny, very quick with apologies. But yeah, I feel like it's really helped me too get past some of the things that maybe I was holding back, you know, and
Yeah,
not, I was not unleashed. I was very much leashed. And so that's why that last part of that framework for me is so um, sort of transformational. All of it together brings engagement, you know, and brings connection to people. But the
right.
unleash part really is like this, the heart of it, literally the heart of it, because
Yeah,
the things that I've had to recognize about myself, I've had to face some things about my own confidence, about like, I might be telling you to do a thing, but was I doing it?
right. Well, it's
And,
in this framework fascinates me in the sense that I think tech and this kind of segues into what we were gonna or what we can talk about with AI now and how, it relates to, the background of the transition from, going from a primarily stationary workplace to either a hybrid or a fully remote workplace, but because it relates AI to when we went fully remote during COVID and that disruption period. But what fascinates me about this framework is I believe tech is tertiary to what we do, right? I believe it starts with self, then it moves to human connection, then it moves to human to tech connection,
mm,
and then it comes back around, right?
yeah,
But it always starts with self. And what's interesting about this framework is it starts with self, still stays with self, but this could really be kind of community in here,
uh-huh.
and then it comes back around to self. So what it really is doing in a way, and this could be community too, but also self, what
Yeah,
this is
they're all
doing is
three
it's
that. Each of them are community and self. Like,
and self,
what
but
I
what it's yeah, what
involves
it's
me. Is
doing is
that what you?
it's still personalizing and bringing that back around to the self, but it's not doing it in an ego driven way. And it's, but again, like the tech is always third to me. It's never about that. It's we got to get it right with ourselves first because at the end of the day, we create the tech.
I
So
know.
the tech is going to do whatever we tell it to do. But we've got to get that relationship with ourselves correct first.
Right.
And then the tech could actually be used, like you said, to expound on ourselves and then to help develop into our own self-improvement and to get better at ourselves. And then we can continue to create this community and continue to get better at community. So it continues the cycle if you think about it like
Cool.
that.
It's so exciting when you talk about it like that, right? It's like
Yeah.
it's not taking over, it's just making us even better, you
It's
know?
just continue. I mean, we've been doing this as humans. This is evolution. We've been doing this for a million plus years. I mean, I don't know what's so different about it, but again, like this goes back to this hype around AI, right? And I mean, I get it. I get that there's fear and I
Yeah,
understand there's fear, right? I get it. And I know that the fear is a lot of it is surrounding the unknown because there's so many unknowns, and when people have unknowns they fill in the blanks, and usually we fill in the blanks with things that are unpleasant because that's human nature to say, oh my gosh, the sky is falling, Chicken Little.
right.
Most fables and stuff like that end in disaster. But especially Grimm's. Those are really dark if you
Yeah,
read the
very,
ones.
very darker than what
Very
we
dark.
know, actually.
But I mean, this stuff like it doesn't have to be dark if you think about it from the point of view of like we've been doing this already. This is not different than when we went through going to remote with COVID. When we were at Applicant Pro, luckily, like we were already set up to work hybrid or remote, because a lot of our employees were already remote, so it wasn't that big of a change to us, other than, we had to really focus as leadership on how to really do remote
The you part
leadership
of it, the
training.
people part of it, the
Yeah, the people
technology
part
and
of
the
it
pace
was
in
the
your
hardest
case.
part, right?
It was the people and how do you unleash your
Yeah.
presence? How do you show up in the environment
Well,
and
yeah,
leading others through and how are they going to show up? We
right,
talked about expectations earlier, back to the ice skates. How do we teach the people that work with us and for us to show up so that
right,
they too can be effective?
right,
For years, people like online doesn't work. Well, is it online or is it what you're choosing to do when you're online?
right. It's again, it's such a powerful tool that it really could be used for whatever you want to use it for. But I think within the context of work, I'm a believer that as far as organizational development, learning and development is concerned, and I would be curious to hear your thoughts on this. I think we're in alignment on this, that HR, human resources, is going to more than likely be the one that's going to have to facilitate and be the catalyst for the conversation surrounding these adoptions and these
Mhm,
changes,
mhm.
and is going to have to position themselves in a lot of ways as the expert surrounding these things. Not necessarily like I don't expect HR to go out and become prompt engineers or to
No,
learn how
that's
to
not
build agents.
expecting. But because HR is got having the conversations around the people and the impact
Yes,
of people, which is then the impact on the business.
right, right. And the change management that comes along with it, because I believe that in a lot of organizations, we've been change managing wrong, or not wrong, but maybe not correctly the entire time or for a long time, just because of the way foundationally companies have been created. And it's maybe not, and again, it's not anything fault, right? I think a lot of companies were built on stability, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, but times are changing, and with middle management positions disappearing, um, a lot of entry level positions are disappearing. There's like
Mm.
not this room to advance the like ladder succession wise anymore, and people are hiring differently. We're going into likely a spike in unemployment, and so I think the conversation surrounding how we do work as a whole is going to be different. And a
Mhm.
lot of these playbooks that HR have had for a long time and a lot of these methodologies are going to have to shift. And
Yeah.
we're going to have to be more agile in the way we approach things, more as an all size fits one and not a one size fits all, because it's we've got too many variables now when it comes to people.
I know we need to get in like what's happening with people and how do we take care of people and how do we connect with one another because
Right.
all these things are changing. And like you said, it's not just a plug into the playbook anymore. We're changing everything. And so the only way to get through that really, or the best way to get through that is to lean into one another and what's happening and communication and listening and the and being able to pivot, and being agile all comes from listening to one another and being close to what's really happening among
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Yeah. And investing now in that training and that learning and development up front, is going to be key.
And so important because it's oftentimes the first touch point for a person as they're entering into the organization, as they're learning to be there and to meet one another. It's so important. It, it's the make or break.
Yeah. I know we're almost out of time. If you could give one piece of advice to HR practitioners today about virtual training for their organization and their teams, wherever the case may be, what would it be?
Oh, what did you just say or do that you could have let the learners say or do instead?
Mm.
Open with that invitation, invite them to be part of it first, rather than defaulting to the send out. Ask them first. And then the beautiful thing is that what you now need to send out, you can plug into what they just gave you and make it specifically what they need.
Love that. Love that. Kassy, thank you so much. Kassy LaBorie, thank you. Author of Interact and Engage, the trainer's trainer. She has a great newsletter, the Spark Connect. It's Spark and then Connect with a K. If you want to subscribe to that, you can do so through her website. You can hit me up. I can send you a link to it as well. Her website, KassyLaborie.com. You can find her on LinkedIn as well. Kassy, again, thank you so, so much for being here. This conversation was amazing. You are great.
It was wonderful to be here with you too, Emily, and I look forward to connecting and talking more denim with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks.
Kassy and Emily just delivered the roadmap for staying human in our tech-driven world. And if you're still treating virtual work as a backup plan or AI as a threat, you're missing the biggest opportunity of your career. Here are the 3 biggest takeaways. First, technology doesn't create connection or engagement. People do. Whether it's WebEx, Zoom, or ChatGPT, the tool is just how we connect, not why we stay connected. Second, learn new tools through subjects you already know. Kassy mastered ChatGPT by asking it about Barbie because she could immediately spot where it succeeded and where it hallucinated. And third, the You framework applies to everything. Your invitation matters. Make it about them, not you. Own the tools, learn it, use it, get over it, and unleash your presence. Bring your authentic self to whatever platform you're using. Kassy LaBorie brings over 20 years of virtual training expertise, from her accidental start at WebEx to becoming the go-to expert for human engagement in digital environments. Her book Interact and Engage and her newsletter The Spark provide practical frameworks for connection in our tech-driven world. What hit me hardest was her evolution from tactical to strategic thinking. She started teaching where to click and evolved into what it all means. That's exactly the journey every professional needs to make with AI, moving from how do I use this tool, how does this change how I show up in the world? Her framework evolution is brilliant, changing from experience effect to you framework, because the secret has been you all along. She literally gives audience members an envelope with a mirror inside during keynotes. The secret to engagement isn't the technology, it's how you show up as a human being. If this episode made you realize you've been approaching virtual work or AI adoption backwards, share it with every leader who's still waiting for technology to solve their human connection problems. Drop a comment and tell us what's one way you're going to flip your approach from send out to invite in. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time on The Future of Work with AI.